Hi folks, I'm Adrian Pelkis and welcome to the San Diego Inventors Forum. Yay! Again, last call, please turn off your cell phones, otherwise we're going to make you dance to your ringtone, unless you're into that. Please don't. And I will follow my own advice here. Okay, here we go. Awesome. There's going to be a drawing between speakers tonight, so you all get little tickets, and it's for the items that our previous presenter here had left us, about 6 items. These are products that Top Dog has actually brought to market, so that's what the drawings are for. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Starting off, thanks to our sponsors, AMN Healthcare. Yay, they gave us the room all day today. All day. And they've helped us get this new technology hooked up. I don't know if you noticed, but we've got screens here, and there's new touch screens, and there's microphones, and there's cameras, and it's like, Thank you very much, Danny, for staying on top of it. Thank you much, Dave, for helping knit it all together. It's gonna. We are actually broadcasting live tonight for the first time. We're just testing it, so we didn't publish the websites for it. But if the tests do work out correctly, and again, it's thanks to Danny very much. Thank you, Danny. Great job. The idea is that you'll be able to, for a discounted price, watch this whole event. And there's some more news that's coming up. How many of you got the newsletter that we do put out? Please raise your hand. Cool. Did you see the map on the first page of the newsletter? This is history, folks. I mean, I've wanted to do this for years, and it was because Stephen Key is so well recognized that he actually was able to accomplish it. We now have 40 of our clubs across the country united. And that means that we are going to be sharing our webcasts. We are sharing the speakers that are coming on here. We've got so many connections, but we didn't have the vehicle to bring them to you, and now we do. And these are connections like the people that, I know the guy, I can call him tomorrow, the guy who runs QVC, he owns it, they bought Shopping Network. All these major areas, I'm involved with a couple of organizations, and different members are on these organizations, and now we're all talking to each other. So, good things ahead, folks. All right, so AMN helped us today, yay, AMN. Coleman helps us out once in a while. Thank you, Coleman. Leslie, thank you, Leslie. Leslie's the head of IP for Jack in the Box, if you didn't already know. And every once in a while they've allowed us some space, but most importantly here is the time and commitment she shows us coming to the front desk here and helping you guys get signed in. Can't thank her enough. And with the food and with our accounting and a lot of things. My own business, A Squared Technologies. I'll tell you a little more about that later, but I am the biggest host here. Special thanks to David. Is David here tonight? No? Okay. He's helped many of you get your provisionals and patents together, myself as well. Bob Green, not here. He's one of our bronze supporters. His father invented blister packaging, so his company in Rancho Bernardo, that's his specialty. We have Josh Emery, who's also a legal specialist. Burke Franklin creates a lot of do-it-yourself booklets for business planning. And we have a lot of contributors, people that have over time contributed their expertise or been a speaker here. I know many of you have seen some of these faces before, so Judy, Michelle, Sydney, David, these are fairly regulars. I had breakfast this morning with Ben Gage. Yeah. Ben Gage was telling me his great stories because he did the Buns of Steel ad with Suzanne Summers, wasn't it? He did the Medicus Hair King, no, the Medicus Golf Club, the Floby thing. And the point is, he helped Gunther Renker get started. He helped Tony Robbins get out of his garage. This man has been in this industry since his mom introduced it to him. His mom was Esther Williams. How many of you know who Esther Williams is? Okay. Remember the ballerinas are in the water? Well, she was the queen of Hollywood. And he became an attorney, frankly, because he saw how poorly his mom got treated and abused in the Hollywood circles. So he was first an entertainment attorney, became an intellectual property attorney. Anyway, he's a great mentor. His company is Inventions to Income. Leslie's pitched. Groznia has helped here with our websites. Jennifer Jo helps connect us. And David, thank you very much. We got your logo up here properly now. Thank you, thank you. And I'm Adrian Pelkis, A Squared Technologies. My quick little shout out is that I am an inventor. This is my garage. I always have stuff going on, so when I have time I go down there and play. I imagine you do the same things. Some of it just blows up and fries and dies, and other things are actually getting paid for or actually become products. I actually do this professionally, as many of you do too. 35 years now, over 300 products developed. Some of them you might know if your shopping cart wheel's locked up, if the thing turns on voice actuated, if you knew about Inventors here in town, built their first boxes. A lot of aerospace stuff. The claim to fame was the infant simulator, the baby think it over doll. Won Fortune Magazine's Product of the Year. Done a bunch of medical things. 4 companies started up there. Alternative energies. This is just a snapshot of some of the more fun projects. Along the ways, yes, there's 14 issued patents. There's a 15th that's supposed to be issued any day now. That has led to, yes, awards. My most recent awards were for projects to go to Mars. The mood adjuster is a way to analyze you multitude of ways, give you therapies, determine real time how it's affecting you, and we've been funded by the European Space Agency because they know astronauts are going to go freaking out in space. You stick something on Mars, yeah, I don't care how long you train for it. Other things that I've gotten awards for, you can read it, personal transport vehicles and other things. The fun stuff. This is the fun side. The inventing side. I'm also on the board with the United Inventors Association and US Inventor, which I'll tell you more about soon. And that's because America's a great place to live and create and prosper from the labors of your mind. We'll talk more about that at the end of the meeting. So, keeping moving forwards. Who's new here tonight for the first time? Please raise your hand. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What I like to do is stop a moment and let any of you that'd like to introduce yourself. And if your passion or what you're working on is on this list, great, let us know. Otherwise, so here's a chance for you to say your name, what your area of interest is in, and we'll get to know each other a little bit further later. But anybody want to start? Who's here the first time? And
okay.
Please do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is William Short.
Hi, William.
And I'm running a think tank called Raffle Group, and we're building custom software for computer biotech and genomics applications. We use a little bit of machine learning in there. Really interesting things. So, thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
All right, welcome. Great, thanks. That's the spirit. Who's next? Please.
My name is Dan Lee. I came today to do a presentation with Top Dog. It's my first time here, and it's been nice talking to a lot of other inventors about sharing product ideas and sources.
Right on, Don. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. What Don's alluding to is earlier today we did have Top Dog here, who's a big company and as seen on TV. We had almost 20 inventors showing 27 products for possible license agreements or to move forwards with. So that was from 1 to 6 o'clock tonight that we were doing this. So thank you very much for coming in, Don. I see many of you came back and attending tonight. Thank you. Who's next? Yes, 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 yes.
My name's Cheryl Smith. I'm interested in pet products,
Okay.
specifically for avian products.
Birds.
There's a real lack of things out there.
Huh.
And my family actually has designed quite a bit of medical equipment. My brother designed a green emitting laser that detected certain cancers they weren't able to detect before.
Mm-hmm.
He actually created that by accident on a lunch break. He was supposed to be making something
Good
up.
lunch.
Yeah. But, you know, they've always had success like that, and I just wanted to do something for myself for a change.
All right, very cool, very cool. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. What's that now, $52 billion market? Pet industry?
67 is projected.
Oh man, I've been out of it for 10
And
years.
there's a decline, unfortunately, this year.
Well, a lot of markets. A lot of markets. Oh, interesting, interesting. Yeah, yeah. And next, who's new? First time? Please, dear. Emily?
Yeah,
Emily?
I guess entertainment electronics.
Oh.
I designed an electronically enhanced point shoe for ballet.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Dance apparel manufacturing.
Pardon me?
Dance apparel.
Yes, yes, yes. How far along are you on that?
I have the patent and
Oh, wonderful.
I designed it. I'm looking for manufacturing.
Awesome, awesome. Have you made a prototype at all yet, or?
Yeah, a basic
Oh,
one.
perfect, perfect. Wonderful. Great, great, great. You're on the path. You're coming along. Very cool. Okay, who's next? Please. Okay, and then we'll come back to you. The gentleman in the back. Yes, please.
Charles Wells.
Hi, Charles.
Currently in the bicycle business.
Oh, what business?
Bicycles.
Okay,
So
okay.
have an idea for a new product for that industry. So
All right. I've recently taken up bicycling myself, and a friend of mine, Dr. Mazie, he told me this joke. He said, "You know what the difference between a bicyclist and a motorcyclist is? About 20 pounds at least." Yes.
Hi, I'm Joe Gregory. In the past, I've worked with companies where we go from concept to finished product, and we try to crowdfund it. About 9 months ago, I left my last position and moved here to San Diego to try to do that by myself. Going to be launching one product, I suppose, in the automotive accessories category next month, and the other one I will put on their other. We're working on it, so it's been quite the ride. Probably more mistakes than successes up to now, but
That's how it works. Yes.
we're doing
And
it.
what was the one thing you did say you took off on the crowdfunding? You just told me about it.
I'm sorry?
You mentioned to me a product that did take off on the crowdfunding and had to do with.
Oh, that was when I was with my
Yes.
past company. I worked with Sarah, but that's the last product I worked on. It's sort of like you throw your biological waste in it, like food, and in 24 hours it turns it into fertilizer to plants. So I don't know if you guys have heard that one.
Composting, like a accelerated composting.
Exactly. Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Very cool. Very cool. Hey, Greg, welcome back in. Yes, my friend, please.
Jeff Seago. I'm a
Jeff.
medical device engineer. But my passion is bicycling, and so I'm working on something for bicycle accessories.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Great. Thank you. I hear the common thread here. And how many of you are working on a sporting type product or for the sporting industry? Cool. You're going to see a recommendation later I'll bring up called San Diego Sports Innovators, and pay attention. There is a group in town that's really great to help people that are bringing sports products to market. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Anybody else? New? First time tonight? You want to shout out? Thank you all for sharing. Great. This is a very eclectic club. We have people in here that, they bend some metal and it's black and it goes in a box and they sell it to Camping World, and other people, they're working on algorithms to absolutely change humanity. So it's a wide gap. We have all kinds of people in here. All kinds. All right. So, next. Those of you that are new, and everybody else, obliged we just meant. Those of you who hopefully got this handout tonight so you can get back here and tell you what we do. We are a 501c3. Our mission is to motivate, educate, and network you. This is the schedule that we created, and so every month is a little different facet of what's involved to become an entrepreneur. Inventing is sort of like being an artist, and you can have something put on the wall and it's art and it never goes anywhere. Really, inventors that are serious have actually marketed their idea, but then they're an entrepreneur, so there's this little gray zone. Many times people ask, are you an inventor? Well, if you're creating things, just say yes. To the technical description of it, though, an inventor has actually marketed something. Anyway, we go through all these meetings to indoctrinate you to some ideas. At the end of the year, we culminate it with a contest from that money that you left up front that goes back into the pot. Many of you have been through this and seen it. Every month we'll have a speaker. Tonight the gentleman will be coming back in from Top Dog. Will be here to tell you how that process works, so you can see some of the experiences that these people bring here that is just fantastic, right from here in San Diego. We're very associated with Connect. I'll talk more about that, and they like the fact that we are a feeder into their system, so to speak. There's other groups in town like Axion. They do the microloans. We've had great presenters like Michelle, who's back here tonight to talk to you more about manufacturing. The carry-on slide is, yes, Michelle is available to talk to you about things, and is a great speaker. You'll see why we have her tonight. Talked about Judy. Her husband does focus groups. We've had inventors that come in and tell us their life story because they've been doing it for decades. Usually every month we'll have an inventor that talks about their product. Now, does anybody tonight want to take the 2 minutes on the floor and do their pitch and show something off? We had one person lined up that backed out last minute. It's Dan Garcia. He created the SIPSy thing. He'll probably be back next month. Anyway, usually every month we bring in an inventor that's bringing a product to market. Some are very high tech, medium tech, low tech, everything in between. Kids. Edison Nation, we have actually a list of speakers that are going to be coming in. This is the list right now. The only ones confirmed was today, Top Dog, and Warren will be here on May. I was talking to Steven today, and he's trying to figure out when he can combine the trip with the Orange County group. All these people bring just so much knowledge and experience, and they're altruistic, and they love helping inventors, so that's why we have them here. All of these videos now are being video recorded by our friend David. Thank you, David, very much for giving us the videos. You can go on this website right here, and you'll see over 100 high definition videos that every one of the speakers we have had here have been recorded. So you can always go back and check that out. Prior to David doing our video work, we're so glad, and it was Cindy that was here for years that helped us with the videos. Cindy himself is quite an artist and an amazing musician, videographer, and so his passion is creativity, and his has a love for inventors as well. And what that's led us to, what led Cindy to, is the envisionment of a website we call Inventors TV. And the idea here is a video portal of every bit of information we can find out there for inventors that's in video form. So, the page has got home, news, resources. Well, there are actually samples here. So there's a news page for it. Our resources channel has different sections that have different vendors listed to each one of them. The affiliates channel, the idea again is we're going to get these clubs together to link our live videos like we're doing tonight. Eventually you'll see the Kansas City Club. The Koch brothers built an enormous building for the Kansas City Club. There's only 12 members, and the Koch brothers put millions of dollars into building them the most advanced high-tech media center you can imagine. So I was speaking on Skype to them live 2 weeks ago because they wanted to hear about the patent issues. The point is, with our affiliates on ITV, we're going to have the clubs sharing their videos. Right now, our first affiliate for our group is Bob Green, Power Pack, and thank you very much for helping us get this thing launched and greasing the skid, so to speak. So anyway, the page is on here. I want you to check it out. We do link to what we think are the best in nature in our community. Okay, so that's the Inventors TV. I want you to check that out. It is going and growing, and very soon we'll be networked with all the rest of the networks in the country. Okay, so that's what we're about. Thank you for indulging me here. Stories and new products shared by inventors. Oh, we should call this the What's New. Oh, who's new? Okay. Well, now it's your turn. Anybody have something great happen last month you want to brag about, talk about, share, discuss? Oh, Sydney.
Well, first of all, I got my voice back. I lost my voice. I had to have an operation. I couldn't talk. It took 2 months to get it back. I'm a musician and I do voiceovers and video, and sometimes I'm a jackass, and that's probably what caused the problem. But anyways, that's number one. I'm able to talk again, which is amazing. But also, you talk about Connect and you talk about the Springboard program. Well, I am in a company called CoSoft, and we're working on systems to fill that box. And we pitched, we went through the Springboard program, we pitched, we didn't get accepted, but one of the people who we presented to took an interest in our company. He decided to work with us personally. He then invested some money. He is now our CEO.
Good.
The company is moving along at a fast pace. We're getting ready to do our testing. I used to have 30,000 shares. He said, well, we got to pop that up. I now have 300,000 shares because he thought he took 10 times, okay? So the point that I'm making is that if you're an inventor and you got the nerve and you put your deck together and you apply, they can really, they've launched us, okay? And it's all free. It cost us nothing to pitch and then as well to get his support. And now he's our CEO.
Does he have a name?
Really sophisticated, talented guy.
What's his name? Can you share?
Terry Lindgren.
Yeah. You know Terry.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Did
Good.
you really?
Congrats.
What's the name of this again? Your group that you're talking about?
This called Connect.
We're going to talk, we actually have a few slides on this later, but thank you for verifying it does work.
Absolutely work for me.
Right.
Okay. And get your stuff together and pitch and
I'll give you the whole rundown on that in just a few minutes here, okay? It is a very great group. Michelle and I are both entrepreneurs in residence there, which means we get to see you when you first walk in the door. What I'm going to show you tonight is what we're looking for. So when you do walk in the door, you'll be prepared. Okay, you'll see it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's moving forward. I'm glad you got the CEO. Yes. when you're trying to work with somebody who's in his 90s?
96.
Oh my God! So the inventor that came up with the product that Cindy's aboard is reaching his elder years, we'll say nicely.
Real smart, but he's 96.
Yeah, so people that are that old, usually it's pretty set in their ways, and that can not always be a lot of fun. I admire your gumption and persistence, Sydney. Anybody else had something great happening in the last month? You want to share? Abel, what's happening?
So we finally launched the app, RootQ. I mentioned it a while back. It's a trivia thing that we do with YouTubers. And the YouTuber who we used this past one was called, his channel's called The Big Jackpot. His name's Scott Richter. He gambles like millions of dollars on a slot machine. It's pretty crazy. So he gets a lot of viewers. So we have an app where we can put out trivia questions based on things that he does. Like people who watch him will know what was his biggest all-time jackpot, biggest live jackpot, what's his lucky number, all this kind of stuff. Then they compete for what's called a top fan award. It's kind of a bragging rights thing, but he rewards them. And then what we do is that everybody who played in his trivia challenge, we put them into a group Q sweepstakes. And then they win prizes. And prizes are purchased out of the YouTuber's store. So it's making money for his channel. And any guests that people purchase are going out to raise money for his channel. He raised a good amount of money when we were in Reno. And then we have our next YouTuber, the 25th. But tonight I wanted to do a little sweepstakes here if you guys want to try the app. You can find it in the Apple or Android store. It's called RootQ.
Spell that?
GROUPQUEUE. And it looks like this when you do it. I put 2 questions up for tonight. And one was just something that Adrian mentioned right now. That's one of the questions, if you were listening, you would know the answer. And then the second one is just one where there's a link on there. You'll find the answer if you want to put it. And then, like, if we have a break later or something, I'll draw for the random sweepstakes. I have a $25 gift card for Starbucks.
Where'd that come from?
So we can't do the top fan component. Like I said, there's 2 components. That's where we, it's based on the number of entries. So everybody will have 1 entry. If you, give it out a try, you get 1 free play. And you can get a free, your next few drinks at Starbucks.
Awesome, Abel. Congratulations. I think 7 out of the 10 new products every day are apps now, so that's the world we live in. But that's... How many apps are there available now? I forget how many millions and millions of apps there are. Say what?
There's an app to figure that out.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's like hundreds of millions of apps. Yes, there is an app for that. Anybody else? Last month, do something great? Yes, here, please.
So, sort of fits in the idea of being entrepreneurial and taking chances. Our family decided to become publishers of a little newspaper called Tidbits. It's the greatest newspaper ever read. Because it's just kind of fun things and puzzles and trivia and interesting sections about pets and history and then trying to take it a little bit to a newer level, is to add an internet section so that people can advertise their internet business. I've got an Etsy store or an eBay store or a YouTube channel. And it's going to be a weekly newspaper published in Escondido and San Marcos. And I'm hoping that we'll do a free ad for the Inventors Forum and let people know about your meetings.
Wonderful. That would be greatly appreciated. We'd love to see this story. Good luck. Good luck. David, I heard you're taking the lead on actually getting it out and marketing it and putting it out there. Wonderful. Good luck. Love to see it in my local restaurant next to the paper there, which we sit and read every day before eating. Very good. Who else yet? Just a second. Yeah, Chris, what's new in your zoo?
Yeah, my name is Chris Baker. I'm a service provider. Got a lot of the products that you see and use every day. We've got products in Home Depot, Lowe's, QVC, Shark Tank, so forth. And I'm currently working on a desktop automation system. So I brought in Siemens. They're the largest machine control company in the world to help me with the controls, and it looks like we're going to be business partners.
Wow.
They really got me behind this.
Yay, awesome. Good work, Chris. Good work. I don't want to remember even when we started back at Laser. When was that? Decades. We go back. I've got one of the greatest appreciations for Chris's talents as a mechanical engineer. We used to work on stuff, and Chris would sketch it almost with a crayon, go out and machine it, and put it on the machine, and it would work. And it's like, So, kudos, Chris. Who else got something going this month? Yeah, Dan, what's new?
I filed a provisional patent.
Oh, yeah.
A mobility product for
people who are relying on walkers to walk or balance. And I'm sponsoring a team of 4 UCSD engineering students to build a working prototype.
All right, cool. Moving forwards. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Let's see. Using the students. Well, there's a few lessons to be learned there, but we'll see what they come up with. Make sure they're not using things that are... Make sure that everything they're using is still available. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Who else had something this month? Yes, my friend.
Did you want to do the Amazon?
You know, we'll get to that. I have a slide on the Amazon availability thing, and I'll bring it up then. Thanks, Reagan. Anybody else? We're ahead. We're ahead of schedule. I've been talking too fast. Oh no. Well, thank you very much for all sharing. Great to hear your news. Every little step forward's another milestone, right? Some of these are actual inflection points, meaning they're either going to grant you more money or more coverage. I like to see you hitting these little milestones. Keeps it all manageable. A lot of times you stop working on your project because you just get overwhelmed, and you just got to get back to this. No, it's just one next little step, and then a step after, and just it'll come. It'll come. Okay. So, Michelle, we didn't shout out that you have published your book. Go ahead and get mic'd up. We are very, very, very fortunate tonight. Michelle's granted us that she'll come back and speak. How many of you have read any of Michelle's books? Good, 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 good. Those that you haven't are missing out, and I hope you do pick one. She brought some copies tonight, of course. The history of how this country started as a manufacturing powerhouse and became so successful as a nation. It's all to do with the middle class, manufacturing, all these things that we've taken for granted for centuries now. And you know, things have changed quite a bit, as we saw since the recession and so on. Michelle is one of the leading experts now in the world on American manufacturing, where it came from, where it stands, where it's going, and how we can really get it back on track so we can all benefit again from the benefits of having a middle class and a good economy. What concepts, right? So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, introduce our dear friend, Michelle Nashhoff.
It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been involved now with the Inventors Forum since 2009, when the first edition of my book, Can American Manufacturing Be Saved? Why We Should and How We Can, came out, and Adrian stopped by my booth at the Del Mar Electronics and Design Show and bought my book and invited me to be part of the Inventors Forum, so it's a great pleasure. I've been in manufacturing since I started as an engineering secretary at age 18. I've been part of some startup companies. I've been a sales rep for manufacturers for the last 35 years. I've had my own company for 33. I've probably sold every way to make a mechanical part, but some of them didn't have a big enough market in San Diego, so they weren't worth my time. I'm a commission-only salesperson, which means I do a lot of work for free because I only make money when I sell something. So I became really concerned with what was happening to manufacturing in the early 2000s. I saw too many manufacturers going to China and sourcing their products there. And I saw a big drop in American manufacturing, which got me interested in starting to write about it. And I did a report called the San Diego County Industry Report for 7 years that I published online and about quarterly. And then I realized it wasn't just going on in San Diego, it was going on around the whole country. So I started writing my book, and then I did a lot of research. Well, after my book came out and I started to get to speak to groups, and I've spoken to probably every engineering and professional group in San Diego and a lot of them in Orange County and trade shows, etc. So I realized that in 2010 I started blogging, and one of the first persons that signed up for my blog was Harry Mosier, who started the Reshoring Initiative. And he had figured out a worksheet spreadsheet to calculate the hidden costs of doing business offshore in other countries. So he trained me in how to use his worksheet calculator and authorized me to be his first substitute speaker. So I've been on the speaking circuit for returning manufacturing to America ever since. And then I started blogging, and I got invited to blog for Huffington Post and Industry Week. And for the last 4 years, I've had my own column on Industry Week, and I've written about 300 articles in the last 7 years related to manufacturing. So that gave me the fodder to write my second book, because we have saved American manufacturing. It's been saved from reshoring, it's been saved by companies becoming lean, and it's been saved by new technologies, of which additive manufacturing is a big factor.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes, I mean, that's the difference.
so now here you are, you've designed a product, maybe you've filed a provisional patent, you've got maybe your first prototype made, maybe you've used additive manufacturing to make that first prototype, or bought some parts and put it together. So now what do? How do you get into manufacturing? Do you have to go to China like so many people have? Is that the only place to go get something made inexpensively? And I can say no, no way. Because we have developed more new technologies here in the United States now that are making us more competitive. Besides, the only thing you're really saving on overseas is labor. If your product has less than 30% labor, you shouldn't ever go offshore in the first place, because that's all you're going to save is the labor. You're not going to save on materials, you're not going to save on, you're going to have to pay more for transportation, you're going to wait your parts from a slow boat to China, you're going to have to really inspect your parts because they aren't made to the same quality in China. You'll get defective parts many times. You want a whole container full of defective parts that you have to pay for? Because the Chinese won't give you credit and back. I was wondering why that was the case for years, and I finally researched and found out that it's against the law for a Chinese company to import defective products. And so they say, well, we can't import defective products even though they made them. So they won't take them back and give you credit. Plus you have to buy a larger lot to get products from China to get that China price. So really the most difficult thing for Americans to be competitive in, because it's labor intensive, and that's making the tooling, particularly plastic injection molding. I've represented a plastic molder since I started in the business, different ones, and tooling is one of a kind thing. It has to be machined. It's labor intensive to make the tooling. So the Chinese are still lower in price for the tooling for plastic injection molding. Now it's a different story for rubber molding, because a rubber mold isn't subject to the pressures and the temperatures of a plastic tool, so you can get rubber molded tooling for a fraction of the cost, because it's usually only about 20-25% of what a plastic injection molded tool. But many American plastic molding companies now have established relationships with a Chinese tool maker to make the tool when somebody needs that, inexpensive tooling, and then they'll get the tooling and they're responsible for the quality of the tool, and then they will run the parts. Because let's face it, it's really an automated process. The parts pop out in seconds or minutes, and so it's not labor intensive. So that's why you're not really saving a lot of money just running parts in the United States compared to China. So you really need to think about what is the environment that your product is going to be used in. Is it going to be inside an office? Is it going to be outdoors? Is it going to be used in a laboratory? Those are the kinds of things you need to think about. What kind of volume do you anticipate for your product going to? Are you going to start out just making, tens and 20s and low hundreds, or are you going to start out where you need to get that price to be competitive in the market, we're going to have to start out with your first lot maybe of 1,000 for a production level to justify paying for the tooling. There's many ways to make a mechanical part in plastics and metals. Injection molded plastic is not the only way to make a plastic part. If you have a product that's going to have a housing, you could start off with a process called vacuum and pressure forming. It's a low tooling way to make a part. It doesn't have quite the intricate geometry, but if you wanted to make a housing for like a medical device or a consumer product that just needs to have a form-shaped housing to put the electronics in, you can do low volume manufacturing using vacuum and pressure forming. It's only when you get into complex geometries that you need to go to the plastic injection molding. But remember this, the part you made in additive manufacturing, whether it's 3D, stereolithography or some of the other processes, that doesn't necessarily translate to a part that you can make as an injection molded part. We had one of our inventors here a few years ago enter our contest, and he had made a compact drum system to be able to disassemble and assemble it so it was really compact. And he had these little plastic parts that were going to fit the metal parts into to disassemble. Well, they were chunky little plastic parts. They were about this big and about that big around. He could make them on his 3D printer, but that is not a part that would be able to be made as an injection molded part. Injection molded parts have to have sort of a uniform wall thickness to the part to be able to make it without having what's called sink, where you have, it needs to cool all up at the same time when it gets hot enough to be the liquid plastic going in to inject it into the tool. If it's one part is fat, another part is thin, it's not going to be shaped the right way when it cools. So those are some of the things that you have to think about when you're making, plastic parts. Various kinds of metal parts where it's like a bracket or some kind of part. It depends on the kind of volume you're going to have. I mean, it could be made just simply formed with a press brake by hand. It can be made as a sheet metal part on a turret press where it stamps out the basic shape and then forms it afterwards. It could be turned into a flat pancake tool to be metal stamped where it's stamped like a cookie cutter and then formed afterward in the more complex shape. There's parts that can be made as a complex metal stamp part where in different processes it does different forming in different bends, and that's, you can get into high volume stamping for your high volume parts doing that. So there's not just one way to make a mechanical part, even in metal. We have complex geometry parts that could be made by different processes called castings, and we can start with sand and permanent mold casting. You go to investment castings where you have a real complex geometry part where it can be where you cannot make it like a machine part. So then you can get into higher volume manufacturing for castings. Die casting is the highest kind of volume, and that's similar to injection molding, only it's injection molding of metal for die casting, and you can do different materials. But you can't injection mold the ferrous metals unless you have to get into metal injection molding, which again is suitable for higher volume. A lot of gun parts now are made by metal injection molding. There's also ceramic injection molding, but again, those are high volume processes, and I actually sort of pioneered metal injection molding and ceramic injection molding when there were new technologies back in the late 80s and early 90s, so I know about those processes, where I was actually trying to get engineers to think how to design a part as a metal injection molded or as a ceramic injection molded part. So there's so many different ways to make different parts, but think of what kind of volume are you going to have? Are you going to be in the hundreds? Here in San Diego, the successful San Diego company has a niche product that sells more business to business versus business to consumer. 97% of manufacturers in San Diego County are under 50 people, and they're selling that business to business kind of product. When you get into the business consumer market, like our pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies, they get into the higher volume, and some of the consumer products like the action sports products. I was a mentor for Connect in 2016 for a company that had designed a personal jet that would propel you through water, and you could also attach it to a stand-up paddleboard or a fishing kayak. And so they were successfully mentored through this Connect Springboard program, and then actually raised all the money they needed to get into production through Indiegogo. And they even, they were one of our inventors in our invention contest in 2016, but they went on to apply to be most innovative product, and they won in their category of action sports in their first year of business. So you can really, succeed. But they had done a lot of work. They were self-funded to begin with. They had a working prototype. So those are the kinds of things that you can do when you get the right mentoring. As Adrian said, I'm one of the mentors for Connect, and it's a lot of fun. I'm mentoring an additive manufacturing company now that's got a new process called directed energy laser sintering of metal. And so instead of a powder bed where the laser passes across the metal powder to form a part, this has a nozzle that directs the powder with the laser to sinter it right in situ, so to speak, and it can actually make different materials and gradually change from one material to another, and can also do cladding of existing parts in a different metal. So it's really, there's a lot of new technologies, and one of the biggest ways we've been able to become competitive again in the United States is becoming lean manufacturers. There's a whole program of lean. I've had the pleasure of doing my presentation on total cost of ownership 4 times now to the Lean Manufacturing, Lean Accounting Summit that is held usually back east. Last year it was Savannah, Georgia. And so I went ahead and got my own certificate in Lean Six Sigma. I got a yellow belt in Lean Six Sigma in 2014, because that is one of the top 3 ways that we've been able to become competitive back in the United States, is becoming a lean company. Lean means you're eliminating waste. Six Sigma means you're eliminating variability to get consistent quality. So the biggest problem is we would have more reshoring if more companies understood the financials. Standard cost accounting is keeping manufacturers from being able to do a total cost of ownership analysis because they have their expenses in different accounting buckets. And you need to be able to look at all the costs together, like lean accounting does, to be able to see all the costs of doing business that you would be paying extra for. You have to think of the theft of intellectual property when you're doing manufacturing in China. They may be making your part and shipping it out the front door, and they're making your part for themselves out the back door. Because they do not honor our patents. They will steal your technology. The biggest mistake you could ever make is selecting one Chinese manufacturer to make all the parts for your product, because then they would have all your technology. And they would be able to rip it off and sell it out the back door on the gray market, even with a pseudo label for your company. So you would be having people buying what they think is your product on the gray market and coming to you if it doesn't work right, and you would be liable. So that's the biggest danger. If you have to go to China, try to do it through an American company that has a relationship, or just source one part with one vendor. not your whole product, so they can't rip off your whole product. The biggest reasons for companies coming back to the United States is intellectual property theft. The second reason is quality. They get defective parts that have to be reworked. There's also, they can't rapidly respond to their changing markets. So you've had to order 2,500 pieces, and you suddenly realize you need to really tweak your design, and you've got 2,500 parts coming that are going to be this way, and you've got expense. You've got to trash those parts or try and rework them if you can do a minor adjustment, and you're stuck with those parts because you had to place a big order to get that China price. So you're dealing with an American company. Obviously you have the better communication, you're speaking the same language, you're in a time zone that's no farther away than 3 hours depending on where you are, and you have real ease of transportation. You can respond rapidly to changing market needs and the needs of your customers to be able to make your products, and you get really good relationships with your vendors because you can have personal relationships, you can visit them, you can, I represent all California companies because when I started out, San Diego was very provincial. They didn't want to, going to the Midwest or the East Coast was going to the other part of the side of the world to them. They wanted to have local vendors, probably because of the kinds of things I was selling to that smaller market where people were ordering 100 of this or 250 of that, maybe 500 of this. We weren't in the high volume because that's the nature of San Diego's market. So I chose over the years to gradually only represent California companies, and now I have 3 companies that I represent that are right here in San Diego County. I've discovered that people want to have their machine shop close to them, their sheet metal shop close to them, and their contract manufacturer for low volume contract manufacturing and assembly. So those are the kinds of companies I've chosen to represent really locally, and that way you can have the service you need for getting ramped up from your low production to whatever level you're going to for full production. And you have a chance to work with your vendor and have them be responsive to you for working with you to get your product dialed in to what's going to work well for the production that you have for your market. And that way you'll be able to, make the changes you need. If you have to fine-tune your design, you have a local vendor to work with, and it's a big advantage. And many, many local vendors now have been through a lot of lean manufacturing. I'm on the planning committee for Tech San Diego Operations Roundtable, and we do monthly meetings, and we have trainers and speakers in the lean world give presentations. So I've actually been to 1 and 2 and 4 hour workshops for every month for the last 10 years before I went and got my certificate in lean myself. And I keep up with the technology. I've been to every presentation that's either 1 or 2 hours long on additive manufacturing in the last 4 years because I want to be able to speak the language of my customers and know what they need and know what to direct them to. I do a lot of, if I don't represent a company, I'm going to do the research to find out where you could go to have something done because I want to help you out. So that's the kind of mentoring I do, and I know Adrian does the same kind of thing where he meets with people. So if you don't know how to make your product, what way you should make your product, either Adrian and I would be happy to help you, and I know there's other people here in the room that can do that, like Chris Baker and others that know how parts can be made, and we can help you be able to select the right manufacturing process for your product that's going to make your product the best that it can be made here in the United States. And the reason this is so important is because we lost 5.8 million manufacturing jobs between 2000 and 2010. 57,000 manufacturers went out of business during that period of time. We have now, because of reshoring in particular, we've gained about 750,000 of the 5.8 million we lost. So we need to really work, because we cannot exist as a country if we have our manufacturing floor in China. We won World War II because we outproduced Germany and Japan. We would not be able to win the next war when we have our manufacturing in China, especially when China has a written plan to become the superpower of the 21st century, and they wouldn't supply us any parts. Think we're going to get any parts from China if we have, you know, our national interests that are adversarial to China? Right now we're in big danger because we've made 100 million Chinese into millionaires, and they're coming back to the United States to buy companies in the United States to buy that technology that they can't steal because it doesn't come over there. So they're buying our country. I just wrote an article that was tops on Industry Week's website in January on should we allow Chinese to buy any company they want? And the answer is no. There's two scary scenarios of allowing that. One is that they could be buying a technology that's disruptive and new. They could shut the company down so America doesn't benefit from that technology. Number two way, they could be buying a technology, put in their Chinese engineers to put a backdoor technology in it so that that part or system would fail when they trigger it. There's already a problem with Chinese counterfeit parts in the defense and military supply chain. So those are the things to think about. Are you an American? Do you want America to survive? Do you want America to prosper? Do you want to create jobs for other Americans? Then keep your manufacturing in the United States, because our future as a country and our national security depends on manufacturing in the United States. Manufacturing jobs are the foundation of the middle class, and we lose manufacturing and we lose our middle class. So if you want to do what's right for your country, select your sources in the United States, and Adrian and I will help you find the right company to do that.
USA! 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 Right. How many of you are vets? Raise your hand. Thank you for your service. Now the rest of your life, put your efforts back into saving this economy so your kids can have a life.
I have a few copies of my book. The first version of my book turned out to be a printed ebook. It didn't have any page numbers. So I sell those for $20.
Collector's item.
And I sell my book with page numbers for $25. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Were there any questions?
Yeah, actually I did have a question.
Please.
For you. Okay. Since you're so versed on manufacturing, I imagine you're very well versed on choosing the proper materials for cost-effective.
Right.
Okay.
No, but I'm not.
As far as metal?
Yeah, metals. And metals and plastics and rubbers, that's what I know about. But we have a whole industry that can make textile products too. In fact, we actually have a San Diego fashion industry. And there's a San Diego Fashion Industry Association that I wrote about in one of my blog articles. They mostly make niche products and high-end boutique kind of products. But we do have people in San Diego that can do sewing and all kinds of different things for San Diego textile kind of products and sporting goods kind of things. So
Michelle?
We have a wide variety.
Could you give Dave the microphone? Other questions? Again, you've got a world-leading expert in manufacturing here. Presentation. Please take advantage of this opportunity. Joe?
Where would you say the quantity cutoff is between regular injection molded parts and vacuum molding?
If you are going to be making under 1,000 pieces, you should look at vacuum and pressure because they'll start off with making 20 of something or 25, and an injection molder won't even look at you until you're, in the hundreds. Usually they like to start out at 500.
How much does the cost of tooling?
Tooling for pressure is about 25 to 30% of what an injection molded part. Now your piece price is going to be higher, but if you're going to be low volume, you don't have the money to pay for that expensive tooling.
Okay.
Great question, great answer. Next. Yes, sir.
You said what all you're saving is labor when you go to China.
Yeah.
What about how does parts factor into that? I've looked at the Alibaba Express and regular Alibaba, and it seems like just the prices for raw materials are a lot cheaper in China.
Well, that is a consideration for some products because it's almost like the material manufacturers are giving a price break to China. Maybe it's because of the volume that they're buying at once compared to. So yes, it can be a problem with some materials that are widely used and they can buy large lots of. So.
We have created our own issues here. Do you know that it costs less for the Chinese to send you a product from China than it costs for you to mail it across the street? You can't mail a package across the street for less money than the Chinese, because they have such an advantage with our U.S. Post Office that came up with this regulation. The U.S. Post Office is working to take away your jobs by giving the Chinese the most ridiculous shipping rate possible on mailing. Again, you can't mail a letter across the street for as cheap as the Chinese can send something from China. Am I right? This is where our country's been going, folks, but that's because of the Gotham Mafia. We'll talk about that soon.
How does that work?
Well, Google, Aflac, Facebook, and Amazon have decided some things for us. We'll talk more about that soon. Well, all right. We are in between speakers. And Steve in here? Steve? We're going to have this little raffle here. I want to find out how many of these products were left. What we did again earlier today was Top Dog Direct was here asking you to show products for as seen on TV. And they had a whole assortment of products they have actually brought to market, and we were going to use those as the prizes for this little raffle drawing. Let me go find out where he is and how many we got left here. If you got a ticket, go ahead and take a look at that number. How many products do we actually have to give away? We do have 6. I'm going to pull the numbers off now. Come on in. I've got the numbers. And then you come in and you get to talk about them first, and then we'll hand them off. Okay?
And then
No, I've got nothing else I can see.
all right.
David, want to get this gentleman set up? So,
Yeah.
before we have our speaker for the evening here, who has ticket number 148? 148, you're a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. 139. 139. 140. 139, okay, you'll get one of those. 140? 140. You get one of our samples here. 130. I say 139, 140, 134. Hey, Andrew, all right.
Hello.
How's it going? 131.
Good.
Cable.
Do I
137, last one.
do I need that?
137.
Yeah, it helps with volume and that sort of thing.
Sure. We're actually going to let Stephen use them. We're going to let Stephen use them as examples, and then we'll have them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Are you mic'd up yet? Let's get you mic'd up.
That.
All right, so how many of you by hand were here today? I see Carl, I see Abel, I see a bunch of you here. Wonderful. Should be good. Well, we were very honored today that Top Dog Direct did come out. We were really fortunate because there's a number of companies on the SCTV world now, and as many of you know the stories about a few of them, they aren't pleasant. Matter of fact, they're almost criminal. A lot of them were borderline because they knew the laws that were in effect and just took advantage of them. Anyway, I've come to recognize Top Dog, and I have an appreciation for what they're doing. Number one, they're looking at your products at the stage that you are right now. It's not like you have to have that 50 $30,000 traction number. They're looking at early stage projects. And number two, they do have a reputation that they haven't ripped people off, so we're happy to have them here tonight. That's a good thing. The other side of the coin is, though, they've got the horsepower and the expertise to do amazing things. You're seeing some of the product lines here. The gentleman here tonight to talk about this, Steve, is the founder and you're the Chief Marketing Officer?
I am.
Chief Marketing Officer of Top Dog Direct. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm hand for our friend.
Some of you I've seen today, but what I'm going to talk about tonight is what we're actually looking for. Just to give a background, obviously I'm in the direct response business and what have you, but I'm also a book author. And what that is, it makes me empathetic to what you guys are all about. It's a thing where you're trying to get through the eye of the needle with your pet project, and mine was called the 10-Day Mba. I wrote it after I graduated from business school at University of Virginia, and I submitted to 20 some odd publishers. I think of the 20, 3 actually responded with a rejection, some mimeographed rejection. The other ones just heard nothing from them. And that went on for about a year or so. And I just happened to be doing some volunteer work at my business school, and a guy was giving a seminar on creativity. And I go, oh, this is great. And then he had a book that he had published about creativity. So after it was done, of course, I went down there, hey, I have this book. How did you get published? And he said, I didn't get it published, my agent did. So what are you supposed to do when somebody says that? Who's your agent? And I asked. He told me who the agent is. Then I asked that next important question, can you give me his number? And he did. And so I called him up. I told him, the 10-Day Mba is like the Cliff Notes of a top 10 business school. Accounting, finance, marketing, whatever. And he says, yeah, that sounds great. Then I gave that speech, ahead of myself. I called the agent, gave him that speech of what it was. He said, send me the manuscript. He got the manuscript. He called me 2 days later. I like it. It's very marketable. I'll see somebody this weekend in the Hamptons who is an editor at William Morrow. And then on Monday, we'll auction it off if he doesn't buy it. I don't know anything about the business. I trusted him. I did see, that he had published somebody that I knew. And he called me on Monday and said, we sold it. And that $30,000 paid off my loan for my MBA at UVA. Amazing, And I was like, wow. And I said, I have these cartoons in the book that I have to pay for. Can they cover the cost of the cartoons? And they called back and said, sure, they'll cover the extra couple of $1,000s for cartoons. Well, that book went on to sell almost 500,000 copies already. And he sent me that contract. I get a royalty, just like we give royalties for our products. And you have to turn over your baby to somebody else for a royalty that you hopefully will get paid. And at my company, I'm the one who figures out the royalties and pays them every month, because I know I'd want to have my royalties every month as opposed to quarterly or every 6 months or something like that. And I make them right. But the analogy to what I do now is, you guys have your babies and you believe in them, and it's a tough struggle, and you just have to find the right home who's going to work with you to get it out there, like I did with my book. So I'm very empathetic with what you all do, and obviously those publishers know what they're looking for. And I didn't know that, but I just happened to have the right idea at the right time, and when the guy asked me what my book was about, it was very marketable, and they knew it immediately. So I feel super lucky. It paid for my education, and one thing that was interesting about my agent, he turned out to be a super agent, and he sold the foreign rights over a dozen different countries. Each of them pay royalties, not so periodic, but still money, and paid for both of my kids' educations. My son went to NYU. My daughter just graduated from Boston University. So I know what it means to have done that. It was great. My second book, called The Jewish Phenomenon, my agent did not want to represent it. I had a friend of a friend and at a publisher that had done a similar book called The Millionaire Next Door. They loved it. They called me back. I said, hey, I'd like to have a larger advance than I had on the first book. And it got published, and it still sells. It's probably sold maybe 20, 30,000 copies. And my third book, great advance again, it was called Retire Early, Making the Right Choices. Unfortunately, I got a great advance of $50,000, which is a lot of money. But when it hit, they did a great job. But it was the Hurricane Katrina happened that when all my publicity went out. George Bush gave up on Social Security reform. So by the time the book was bought, to the time the book was actually in the marketplace, it just wasn't the right book at the right time. But it was great that it got published. So back to why that is important to you all is I am empathetic. It is something that you put your heart, your mind, whatever into your item, developing it, getting that moment of brilliance, and it happens, and you invest your heart and soul in it, and we take it very seriously. Top Dog Direct is one of the 7 companies that are in my business. Some of them do a lot of product, 20 products a month. We usually do one every month and a half, and so we do them sequentially. We use the best producer in the business. We have Harriet Carter Gifts, which is the owner of my side of the company, which has been around for 50 years. So we do the fulfillment. We have the best media buyer and what have you. What that means is when we do a project that we believe in and we sweat the details. It's not like one of many projects that they just work through. And if the project doesn't work, I feel really good that we did everything in our capabilities to make it work. And the inventor, we involve the inventor from the scripting to the manufacturing, prototyping and all that. So it's not just, hey, we've signed your product up and you have to send it off. No, we want the inventor, because the inventor knows the product best. They know why they developed it. And so we always want the inventor at the shoot. Something's not going well with the product or prototype or whatever, they're there. They know how it should perform and what have you. So that's a difference of our company. We really involve the inventor, and I think that makes a difference. There's, and even if the stars are aligned in the world and we do everything right, 1 out of 3 of our products work. 1 out of 4. I think our competitors, because they do so many, maybe 1 out of 10 now. And then people that are peripherally in the business, maybe 1 out of 40. So when we invest well over $100,000 to produce a commercial, test the commercial, invest in the prototyping and all that stuff, we make a commitment to it, and we want it to work just as badly as you do. And there was a question today about royalties. No, if it makes so much money that the royalty is too big cumulatively, we don't cut it off, because that means we're making money. That's not something that we would ever do. And one of you all had asked that. Yeah, you asked that today. Yeah, that wouldn't happen. Like for the 10-Day Mba, I've been collecting royalties for 25 years, and it's been a beautiful thing. But on to, if there's ever a question, you can ask me anything you like. What we're looking for is a unicorn for television. It's a special product that works on television. Because imagine the commercial. When you watch a TV commercial, we have to catch your attention. So awareness, interest. Boy, I really am interested in what is going on here? I really want it, and I have to take your money. So I have to actually generate a sale. It's unlike any other advertising out there. It has to be compelling. And there's usually not a formula, but there's a usual sequence that happens in a commercial. One, there's a problem. I have a problem with a dog urinating on my carpet and staining it. Second, there's a solution. Then they introduce the product. Third, the secret is, in this case, there's enzymes that eat the urine. And the next one is the solution and benefits. It also, we have a demonstration where the black light is used to identify the stain. So that's visual. Remember, TV is a visual medium. There's testimonials. Then there's the solutions and the benefits. Sometimes there's ancillary benefits, like it can be used for people stains, it can be used for blood and vomit and all this other stuff. And then we present the product. Hey, it's $19.99. If you call right now, you'll get this black light, and that's called the call to action. Most 99% of commercials follow that formula, so to speak. And the reason is it has to get from, hey, I'm watching television, to, hey, wow, this is something I might be actually interested in. It has to be sometimes hokey. It does definitely needs to look different than normal commercials, because it says, hey, I'm selling you, get in your buying mode. And our customer, which I would call very impulsive, very optimistic, because if they have a problem, they're thinking, hey, this company who I don't know may be able to solve my problem. So if you're a skeptic or you're a negative person, you're not buying off of television, because you have 1,000 different reasons in your head not to buy. But if you're an optimist and you're impulsive, those people buy off of television. Half of them will call the 800 number, half of them will go to the website. Depending on the product, sometimes it's 70% to the web now, and 30% will to answer the phone. But the only way we can actually track orders is through the 800 number, because the website itself, you don't know which commercial that ran on ESPN at 2 o'clock generated what orders. But when they call the 800 number, each of the commercials has an 800 number, so you're able to at least peripherally understand which spot is working and which ones don't. It's
Steve, I understand you correctly though.
Yes.
The whole beginning of it, you said, point out the pain. What is the problem?
What is number one problem?
How many of you have been in my office and recognize those words?
And then I'm going to get into it, like the reasons why what we're actually looking, it not only has to be a problem, it has to be an important problem to the person who has it. Is your dog urinating on your carpet? Important problem. Do you have skin tags? Important problem. Do you have an issue with sleeping? Do you have night vision issues when driving? Important problems. Do you have sciatica, like the active brace? These are important problems for the people that have them. We've had a lot of success with personal care products, that type of thing, and those issues for like Nerve Pain Away, which is a current product of ours, or Tag Away, or Be Active with sciatica. The people that have those issues really have it, and they find it, you know, the products do work. And every one of our products has to be tested to get into Walmart. You have to have testing, and so it's not just a product that may happen possibly to work, or maybe a little flim-flam. No, it has to actually work and be tested. The other difference now, this is kind of annoying there. No, but that light is in my eyes. The other thing that's important is that TV medium, we hope to break even on the TV commercial, because the money that is made is at retail. So for every one I will sell on television through the internet, off of advertising, I'll sell 7 to 15 times that many at retail. So in the old days, you can make money off the sales off of television, but fewer and fewer people are watching television, but the media rates are not going down commensurate with the smaller audience. So, and if you had met Jackie today, she doesn't watch any television. I really don't watch all that much television. And so this whole younger generation are watching Hulu, Netflix, watching on demand. Our commercials don't even reach those people anymore. So some of our later successes based off personal care and issues to a more mature audience, it's kind of fit with that trend. One of the biggest stations is Fox News. They're one of the largest audiences, but it's an expensive spot, and you reach a lot of people, and that would be one of our successful spots, would be there. And then we also on Hallmark and whatever, all the different cable networks. We only use national cable to reach customers. If you're buying local, the cost per thousand or what have you when you're buying local media is much too high. So you have to buy the media nationally. And because it's direct response, if Chrysler is paying, say, $100, we're buying direct response media, we're paying 30 cents. We're paying $30 for that spot. But I don't know if when we're bidding for the spots, how much will clear. So if you need to clear $100,000 in a given week, they may have to place bids for $300,000. So when I get in on Monday morning, it's like, how much did we actually clear this week? And what was our results? Because it's very uncertain, because we're bidding for that cheap time. And that's what makes the whole thing work, is getting this time, getting the exposure, and then with that success and that exposure, that we take it to retail, the major mass markets, as seen on TV. Some of the products will be in the as seen on TV, and then like this product from 2004, it migrates to what they call inline, and inline is the actual pet department. And some products will run their course as seen on TV products, other ones will not. It depends on what it is. And obviously, we try to get it in as many places and have it sold for a long time, like Tagaway. Sometimes that product was not only in the as seen on TV, it was also in the OTC drug place. Same thing with the Active. It was in the as seen on TV, and then it was also in OTC, so it had multiple places in the store. At a pitch event, excuse me?
Over the counter?
OTC, yeah. At our first pitch event, there was a guy who invented the Be Active brace. He pitched us, had done a lot of work, and I mean, he had his own issues, but he was a great inventor. We sent it off for proper manufacturing. I think his costs were $5 and $6. We had it manufactured for under $2 because it involves sewing and what have you. And that product, within 2 months, we had a commercial. We tested it, and then he had issues about making sure that it was compliant with the FDA as a medical device, which we spent money on that, and making sure the commercial is compliant, because you can't make claims that would violate FTC or FDA issues. So you have to make sure everything is in alignment, and then you have to make the commercial. And it was a beautiful thing. We went into a mall, they put it on passerby, and those mall shots are real, and those people put it on, and they were describing how they were feeling. Obviously, you can't see the visual medium TV. You can't see pain relief, but they can describe it. And so a compelling testimonial sometimes does the trick. Otherwise, the product should have a visual one. So let me get to the big topic here of what we're looking for. Number one, it has to be a mass product, because TV is a mass medium. You can't really target people, and because the medium if you're watching news or what have you, we can't make a commercial specifically for a specific station. We have to make it mass. So number one, a mass market. Number two, as I said, solves an important problem. Not just any problem, but an important problem that somebody can watch, get excited about it, be optimistic that their problem's going to be solved, as we said. A visual demonstration, like when the black light is shown on a urine gone on a stain and you spray urine gone on it, under the black light the stain goes away because then you know where the stain was. You saturate it and then the enzymes go to eat it up. Or with the night view glasses, you put them on, you can see the difference between wearing them at night and not. The glare goes away and it's cool. Number four, those people that buy from television are impulsive and what have you, so when they get something, they want it to work quickly. That's important. Works quickly and there's an instant transformation. So when you're spraying urine on, it works. You put the glasses on, it works. Tagway, you put it on skin tags. Be Active Brace, you immediately feel it on your behind where you usually have it. I happen to have had that issue, so when we took the product in, and the woman who worked with us at the time, she had it, and we go, whoa, it really feels better. It's amazing. And so that was very successful. We sold well over 4 million of those. Really good. Cost of goods should be 4 to 5 times cost of goods. Why? Because the most expensive thing that is part of a commercial is the media time. So if you get a cost per order of $20, $25, and the goods cost you $4, you know, it's the media is what makes it happen. And, you know, we will know pretty quickly when we test a product that first weekend on 6, 7, or 8 different networks, national cable networks, we'll know if it works or not very quickly. And then after that first week, we'll say, whoa, this is a winner. And then you go deeper. Every week you put more money in, and you put as much money as humanly possible into it, because you want to develop this awareness, because shortly you're going to be at retail and you want people that weren't as impulsive and as optimistic. When they go to Walmart, they're going to walk by that area and go, I remember that commercial, but you know, I didn't want to pay shipping and handling, and I would like to see the product. I'm going to feel comfortable that I can return it easily, and that's 7 to 15 more people that will be buying it that way. Has to be a good value versus the alternatives. With Be Active, it would be, you know, all kinds of different braces and what have you, and drugs for sciatica, things like that. With Urine Gone, you don't have to have a whole crew come in and do your carpets, that type of thing. So it needs to be a good value. So if there's something else out there, your product has to work better and be a better value than it's out there. And one of the other things that builds value in a commercial is, well, if you call right now, we'll give you 2 of them and pay a separate processing fee. For some reason, unknown to man, that does the trick. And we've tested it with and without that, but it works much better. And it's not the cost of good of that product that makes it much better. It's the reaction and the efficiency of the media. So imagine it's $35 cost per order. You run the BOGO, as they call it, buy one, get one, and it goes to $25. So that $10 is what you save, not the extra costs of goods. So it's very important to get people to order. And then this is number 7, it's not at a mass retailer, because the payoff for direct response company is at mass retailing. And we've done products like Mighty Putty. We sold over 30 million of those sticks. That was sold in specialty places, and we sold it with Billy Mays, if you remember him. Each of those sticks were sold for $6, $7, $10 a piece. They were available at hardware stores. We hooked up with the manufacturer of all those and private labeled it with them and called it Mighty Putty. And instead of obviously selling one, we sold 6 sticks for $19.99, which was a big deal, and it was very successful. The product worked very well. But it was there only in hardware stores, not in mass merchants. And even if a person would have seen a stick of Mighty Putty, they wouldn't know what to do with it because it was never demonstrated. If you were a plumber, maybe you would know what this stuff is, because when you use it, it's an epoxy, and you can fill in gaps. You can put it on plumbing. You can, do things underwater. You can fix all kinds of different things with it, but you have to demonstrate it. And that's why there are a lot of products out there that might become TV products that just haven't been demonstrated, might be out in the market, and could be good TV items. We did Mighty Mend It. We wanted to do it followed up off after Mighty Putty, which is for hard surfaces. Mighty Mend It is for cloth, soft surfaces. We said, well, who makes the best adhesive glue for fabric? And we found it's in Mount Vernon. They private label, they sell it. They private label and they sell it under another name at craft and hobby stores. Michael's. And what's the other one? Hobby Lobby. And they've been selling it for 30 some odd years. And within the first 6 months of us selling, we sold more of that stuff than they had sold in years, quite honestly. And they were great people, and they had to gear up. Fortunately, they had the ability to make the product in large quantities, and we bought it from them from Mount Vernon, New York. If it's an item that's a bottle that has to be filled with liquid, it's made in the United States for sure. Cosmetics, definitely make it in the United States. If it's something that's labor intensive, then it usually has to be made overseas. And then getting back to the not available at mass retailers, what we did with that particular company, they continued to sell it at mass retailers under their name. They also sold Mighty Mend It at the Hobby Lobby and all those places under our name, and they paid us a reverse royalty. The guy who invented the Be Active brace wanted to sell it to chiropractors. We're fine. So there's an ability to cut out a channel of trade as long as it's not the mass retailers, because that's where our business is. I don't have a blackboard, but I can kind of go through the economics of TV. Even though it's a $19.99 product, which is kind of the sweet spot in pricing, recently there's been other TV products that have been at $29 and $39 and $49. So people are more, this is only in the last couple of years, open to selling a higher dollar. I don't know what the reason is, but there has been successes in that, so we entertain higher dollar values. But if it was a $19.99 product, I can't just get a retail a revenue of $19.99. I have to get more, because just the cost of the media is going to cost me $20 per order. So we need to upsell you with other related products, a deluxe unit of the product that you just bought, maybe a larger bottle of Urine Gone or a larger bottle of Tag Away or what have you. Because at the end of the day, I'll need $40 to $45 as the average sale for that $19.99 product to make it work for us. So you see $19.99, but the actual sale is $45. And yeah, that's the goal. It doesn't always happen. Like for instance, our current, because another thing that's changed over the last 5 years, there's this thing called Amazon out there. And before we used to charge shipping and handling, and people don't like to pay shipping and handling anymore. And so that hurts us in that way. So nowadays, maybe the average order will be in the high 35s or less. You never know. And we try our best to offset the cost of the media. Sometimes we run media at a loss. Hopefully we'll break even. Okay. And returns, 5%, $2.50. The cost of a call is $3. Fulfillment, another $3. Shipping, very important. It should, if ideally, it would be under £1, because under £1 is $2.75. If it goes over £1 or over, it's $4.75. So that little extra ounce is really important. So shipping something that is super light, or like nerve pain away or be active, that's a major issue related to our economics. The media, as I said, would be $25. Cost of goods, including the upsells, will be about $6. So if we do everything right, we have a profit of maybe $3 to $4 off of that sale. Maybe at the end of the day, if we make 10 to 12%, we're really golden after everything. And that's our goal. And royalties for an inventor would be somewhere between, depending on the economics of the item and the development that we have to do, can be anywhere from 2 to 5%. And that would be on the gross of what we sell directly to the consumer, which would be on the phone or on the website, and it would be off the retail when it comes to selling Walmart, because when something is sold for $20 at Walmart, they pay us $10, and your royalty would be off of what we would receive. That's pretty good. Any questions? Yeah.
So the royalty, is that on, is it an exclusive licensing deal or
Yes.
Okay.
We would license the product from you. Exclusively. Except if there was a channel of distribution that you're currently handling, and that's how we would do it. Yeah, we would pay for the commercial, running the commercial, all expenses of development and everything like that. The only thing we ask for the inventor to do to make sure that there's no conflicting patents, but you don't need a patent. I mean, the most important thing, as we talked about in our dinner yesterday, was that we need to be first in the market, we need to be biggest in the market, and we need to be the first on the shelf at Walmart and the mass retailers. That is the barrier to entry. We have competitors who don't care less about patent or whatever, so they can knock it off, or there's a way to work around the patent. But once we're the product, we're going to get the majority of the sales because we'll be first to market and the biggest. And usually they don't carry, depending on the item, they're not going to be carrying multiples of tag away on the shelf or urine gone or what have you. There used to be a time where once one item came out, other competitors would just go on and try to find the next thing. There's a lot of internal competition now of knockoffs of other TV items that haven't really, that competition hasn't been in the last 5 years. There's a couple of really bitter rivals in our industry. And if one comes up with the hose, the other one is coming up with the hose. Someone comes up with a bunch of balloons, the other guy's coming up with a bunch of balloons, or whatever. And that was a case where they didn't go with a direct response company. They came with a, that company is very well heeled, and they supported that inventor and that invention. And so they did sell a lot, but obviously it's a struggle.
Well, at the percentage royalty he gets, he's probably out of 100 million units that they did sell, he's made maybe 10 million, but he spent 20 defending that patent. So
yeah,
another year or two will catch up.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
So yeah, it's a competitive industry. My company is like Bill and Jackie that you saw today. We're not bureaucratic. There's no committees of, oh, what should we do? We can immediately come up with a decision within the week, what we're going to move, and then we just do them one every month and a half to 2 months. We sweat the details. Hud and Miller does the commercials. They sweat the details, and it's just that type of thing. It's small industry as far as people, but just like my agent that sold my 10-Day Mba, it's a small industry of people, but they have large sales. And so that's kind of where we're at. So any questions that you have, I'm totally open.
In the cost of putting the product on the shelf, do you guys pay for shelf space in these stores?
No. When you go to Walmart, it's usually to the right-hand side of the checkout counter. And because we actually advertise the product, if we have something successful, the question usually from Walmart is, how many can you get to us and how quickly? So, because it's supported with advertising, and that space, that shelf space, is the most productive for them in the entire store. So they're wanting that. When other companies come to Walmart, they beat them senseless not only on price, but they want other fees and remuneration, because they'll put that item on their shelf and then you wish somehow that somebody's going to buy it. Here, our sales are directly related to the amount of advertising that we spend against it. And so if we're not spending advertising and the sales go down, we get all that product back. And so, it's an investment for sure. So that it's a different type of relationship, because they want us to be successful on television, and they get those sales.
Other questions? Other questions? All right, Chris. Fantastic.
All right.
Way to go.
Anything else?
All
right.
Did you want to hand out some of these?
Whoever wants these.
Well, we had some raffle tickets, so who had pardon me?
They ran out of raffle.
Well, a few people got them that did win. We already called out those numbers. So if you got called and your number came out, please come by, and first one up gets this one, second one up gets that one, third one up gets this one. Come on. Yes, you're the...
Hurry, get your choice. Come on, DJ.
Someone already picked up the tag. And here's some sheets. I printed up some sheets of who we are, the seven things that we're looking for, how we operate. It's on one sheet, just like...
And we'll have those sheets up for you here.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Steve, thank you so much.
Very good.
Awesome, great.
Thank you.
Folks, let's give Steve a big hand. Yeah,
131. I got it, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, that 131, 131, 137, 134, 140, 139, 148. Come up and grab your things.
That was an interesting product. It was super successful for a really short briefing.
Now, we aren't done. If you are interested in resources and opportunities for inventors and what we are doing with the legal system right now, that's still to be done in the next 25 minutes, okay? Thank you very much. All right. So,
Almost over. He just sat down.
we'll get there. About a few more minutes.
5%.
You were one of the ticket holders?
Crime scene cleanup.
And that's what the coverage, like we'll take it back.
Yeah, we take everything back. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and now that we don't charge shipping and handling on most items, there's no return of shipping or handling because we didn't charge it.
Folks, if you'd be kind enough to grab your sample and then catch up with Steve in a few minutes here, we'll have a breakout. Okay? Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Steve. We'll have the flyers here. All right, folks, so our next phase here is our resources and opportunities. And again, I'm happy to help you if you'd like to come in and help. I do offer this two-step approach on how to take your product from concept to an actual working model. Happy to share that with you. If you've been in my office and we go through this presentation, these are the notes from that presentation. There's sheets out here that are the new product evaluation matrix. If you haven't even graded your idea yet, please use this sheet to figure out if it's even worth developing in the first place. The Inventors TV. Hey folks, can we wait until after the meeting to have the rest of these discussions? Because we have the rest of the meeting to go through here. Thank you. The Inventors TV is another great resource for you, as we talked about earlier. with Sydney. Here in San Diego, there's a lot of resources. I mentioned the San Diego Sports Innovators. This is headed by Bill Walton, the ex-basketball player. He's the chairman. They have a program very much like Connect, where they will help shape your company and your business plans so you can pitch your sports products to people that are actually sports athletes here in town that are retired that are looking to give back to the community. The most prolific group in here, now by the way, Maker Place, super hobby shop if you just need a hobby shop to build things. These are all incubators and outfits here in town that help with startups. Hair Club is for women. We did mention here the Connect group, and that's where I'm going to focus next because Michelle and I are both presidents. Hair Club for women. Most amazing organization that helps women inventors get going, get started, and it's women helping women. So even the investors are women. They've gone national. They've got great recognition and funding. SCORE, obviously, well, if you haven't heard about Service Corps of Retired Executives, they help with your business planning and teach you basics of entrepreneurship. Axion, same thing. They have a good course and background in helping for entrepreneurship. They also qualify you for microloans, so they make sure your credit scores are where they should be, and then they offer loans from $300 up to $70,000, $7,500. Anyway, it's a great way to get some seed capital and get your credit scores fixed. Now, Amazon has the business of shipping things. They love to see more products get shipped, and they've got quite a program to help inventors bring their products to market. Reagan, you've got a, what is this now?
It's a brochure I received in the mail. It's 5 different days that you can sign up and go down and listen to their...
Amazon is giving pitches right here in San Diego to teach you how to get your products on market. Reagan's got a brochure, he'll share that with you.
If you want the number...
Can you send it, put it on emails and send it out to inventors?
You know, I've seen this, I'll find it. I'll see if I can find it. I have seen it as an email.
Yeah. Just mail it, blast it to the inventors will be beneficial to everybody.
All right, or you follow that website right there. Sure. Folks, if you're trying to innovate something and you've never done this before, you don't have to have had an epiphany to create something. Many great things come about because of a process of evolution, and that's innovation. And one of the best experts on this is Dr. Harry West. He invented the Swiffer duster. He never mopped a floor in his life. He spent 3 weeks watching people, came up with questions, came up with ideas, and then went through an evolution process many times, I think it was 7, before they had the Swiffer duster, the best-selling product of its kind. So there is a process. It's on a YouTube channel. He's got his own website. Just look up Harry West, and you'll see this whole process spelled out. And that's how you look at something when you say, how come this thing doesn't work as well as it should be? Well, there is a process to make it better. Our dear friend Steve Key is quite the master of licensing, and his book One Simple Idea has become a textbook that they use in colleges now to teach. And many of you, I was talking to somebody tonight, they were so impressed that all of his stuff online is free. He has these little short videos that answer so many of the questions that you might ever have on licensing. Check it out. His book is a great read. His videos are fantastic. And gosh, if you really still need to have your hand held, you get into his program, and it's about $2,500, but you will see every single week now he is showing a graduate student that is licensed a product. He's becoming that effective. I also got kudos to Stephen for some other things I'll talk about in a minute. He's actually toured all of our clubs. He'll be here in a couple months. We are very happy to be again associated with Connect, and we think we're a funnel into Connect. Connect is a group here in town that's an innovation hub. They've helped launch over 3,000 high-tech companies. It's free. The program, and by the way, remember, Connect isn't going to fund you. They're going to make you fund ready. Meaning, they have a process of bringing in other people in town that know your business, and they get together and they form panels. And during these panels, they look at different aspects of your business plan. So these panels include the products panel, the finance panel, dry runs, and each one of these is actually a section of your business plan. So what you're doing is a micro pitch, and you've got people in the audience that have been there, done that, made their millions, and they're there to, it's something for them to do, to give back to the community, and it's just an amazing way to make connections and networks. You go through this whole process, and that qualifies you then to pitch. I mentioned that Michelle and I, we do the pre-screening and we get on some of these panels for these companies going through, just like Cindy was explaining, worked very well. We have a questionnaire when you first come in the door, and notice this, and I will give you a copy of it if you want. These are the areas that we're actually looking at to see if you are really ready or not. Have you identified your opportunity? Do you have a great, unique solution? Do you know your market? Do you have a business model? Do you know your competition and your milestones? You can see the difference in grades that we give to these things in these different areas. Now bear in mind, this isn't for license agreements. This is about how to raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to start a business and a company, the legacy thing. It's a different picture, really. But anyway, this is what we look at right initially. And we know you're going to have holes in this, and that's why we're there, is we'll figure out how to fill some of these holes and supply these things. The one question you don't see on here is, are you coachable? Because again, you got a room full of people that are millionaires. They made their fortune doing what you hope to do, and if you've got the audacity to say, no, I'm going to do it my way, well, good luck. You got to be coachable. You got to have an open mind to realize these people know their market and how it works, and it probably behoove you to follow some of their advice. Okay, so we get a quick sniff test on, are you coachable? And it's all about your arrogance. Okay. So that Connect group actually has other segments. We have a capital match, which will just that. It matches you to capital companies or people that are interested in certain segments. We also have talent match, which if you're looking for a specific type of specialist, like a CEO or a marketing person in a particular area, that's talent match. And so they've got quite some excellent Rolodexes there over Connect. The whole point is to get you to qualify for presenting to a group such as Techos Angels. They're one of the largest investment groups here in town. This is a conglomerate now nationwide. They have, it's not a company, they're individual accredited investors. 5 to 50,000 is their usual sweet spot. So collectively, 50 to 750,000 they can put into a project to get you launched. You know, they have 500 applications a year and they fund about 30. So you got to be up there in the top, top percent. There is a structure to this and to present that they demand. And that is what, going back a slide, you saw with Connect, what they'll do is help you structure your presentation so they're exactly the right material in the right order so they can digest it and understand it correctly. Now, I've talked about being fund ready. There's another way to look at it. There's a couple of these grading schemes and techniques. This one here is by Blue Moon Advisors, and it shows 100-point scaling that goes with 20 questions at 2.5 and 10 at 5. And just take a look at this. I mean, if you're starting a business, this is the sort of things you're going to have to get into, dive into, either master or have somebody else master for you. Delegation. Again, a lot of people get overwhelmed because they're trying to do everything themselves. Don't. Get people to do the things that you don't like, that love to do those things. Anyway, look at all these issues. You're going to need a score 95 to even be talked to by a professional investor. Okay? It's that much work. Homework. Yes, you have to do some homework. Inventing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. For many of you, it's a get-poor-quick scheme. And others, it's a get-poor-slow scheme. But getting rich quick very rarely happens. It takes a lot of planning, organizing, and knowing what you're going to do with the money that we're going to put in your company, and then following through with it. So, that's the kind of thing you can expect to be asked for. Any questions on that? Come back to me later if you come up with those questions, okay? Opportunities, how are we doing time-wise? Great. I want to go through this quick. You saw it today, Top Dog, great organization. Thank you again, Steve, Top Dog. I've come to admire what they're doing because of the levels that they work at and the commitment they have to the inventor, and they don't just take on 40 projects and only really give attention to the top 2 or 3. They are selective. And then they don't fall into the rank of these companies that have now become notorious for knocking us off. By name, Telebrands is one. Pardon me? Okay. The United Inventors Association is a wonderful group. We have a sign-up form out here. They empower inventors by the trade shows. They've got the hardware show, the Direct Response Expo show. This is Dan Garcia. He was there a year ago, and he won an award for Best in Marketing for his little bottle stopper product. That got him to pitch that very same day. I was hoping he was going to be here tonight to tell us where he's going, but he's been very busy because this whole thing is taking off. So there is the link. Somebody asked me here, when is this next show is actually coming up here in April, and the booths are available right now. So if you want to meet the rest of this industry, show up there. And we were there one year when Van and his girlfriend invented those pieception, making 2 pies in 1 pan. Gibbons was walking by and she saw this, she said, and she got the lights turned on, she got the cameras turned on, they made a whole film thing right there on the spot at the trade expo because she was so enamored by this one product. So yes, you can be discovered at one of these shows. Other opportunities here, I don't know how many of you are in a high-tech area. Are you working high-tech? Okay, cool. You probably already know about from those of you that raised your hand, you already know about the Small Business Innovation and Research Grants. Every division of the government has solicitations every year asking for products to be developed, and that is grant money that's non-dilutive, and your first stage is just a working model. So this is a great way to get launched, and they have these solicitations announced regularly. Department of Defense and Energy have the most of them. Make 48. Who was at the Make 48? Carl, was that you or no? No. So Brent. That was you at Make 48. If you haven't seen the show, it's a contest for people to, within 48 hours, conceive and make a working model and actually come up with a pitch for it. So it's a rush, but you're seeing the whole experience. You may not win there, but you're getting national publicity. And that's what just about everything else here really is a chance for you to get national publicity. We're living in an era now where inventing is getting to be a popular thing, and baby boomers had their retirement savings hoping someday they do something, and now's their time. So we're seeing these reality shows popping up left and right. If you're interested in getting on any of these shows, contact me, we'll hook you up. Edison Nation, they're still doing it quarterly. They pioneered this with the Edison Nation TV. They're a little onerous. A lot of these are a little onerous when it comes to your deals with them. But what Steve pointed out is exactly right. The 2 to 5% royalty is the norm. And why does it do this? Because our whole industry of buying things is based on having new products get into the pipeline so us consumers can feel like we need it and go buy it, okay? America's future depends on your ideas. Any questions on that? Awesome. I got a few minutes to do the fun.
Is this on the website, the presentation?
Nope.
Is that something we could consider? Because honestly, you're going through it so fast.
I know, I have
and
to.
it's great material.
Here's the answer to this. Anything you want to know about here, send me an email. I'll give you that particular slide, or we can download. But as it is, it's a 15 meg, 125 point slide deck. So I can Dropbox it too. And yes, it's all available. This is public knowledge, absolutely. But I don't have it on stick or on a CD, not this part. What we're doing tonight, though, is quite unique. We are actually broadcasting this. Danny, are we actually recording it as well?
Yes.
Okay, so for the first time, tonight's meeting will be available on YouTube. Matter of fact, well, many of you already left. I was going to capture a picture because we had a great crowd tonight. That's okay. Yeah, it will be available on YouTube, and when that happens, I'll put that on the newsletter link so everybody gets it. Great. Excuse me for talking so fast. Trying to keep up. It's been a long day, and we want to get out of here with some major announcements. So, this portion of the event is the who needs who. So, do you need marketing? Do you need manufacturing? Do you need design work? Do you need engineering work? This is your time now to raise your hand and say, I'm looking for somebody that's a service provider, and hopefully we can connect you or keep it in mind. Please start.
Looking for someone that does InDesign. We need to design those ads for our newspaper. So.
Like a graphic artist?
Yeah. Oh. Or can you tutor or even tutor us in that program in design?
Okay. All right, and you can contact me afterwards because I know some illustrators that might be appropriate.
Okay, great.
And anybody, again, when we do this whole little event right now, keep it in mind. If you have a connection, meet afterwards and tell them how you can help them. Otherwise, if you come up with an answer later, bring it back and we share. The whole thing's about sharing right now. Next, who needs a who or what? Yes, dear.
Licensing? Someone who knows licensing?
Yeah, okay. Many of us are pretty well versed on that. Leslie's great if you already have met somebody. Now, when you say you want licensing, are you talking about forming the agreement so it gets you the best percentage and it's legally done, or you think licensing is your request to find somebody who's going to license your product?
I just want to know, like,
If you want to know everything about the subject, buy Stephen Key's book, One Simple Idea. Okay? That book has become the textbook. It has plenty of examples. He has an index in the back of 1,700 companies that he's categorized into 80 groups that all have an open door policy looking for ideas. And again, that textbook is just a basic example. I'm going to paraphrase it for you. You come up with an idea. The first thing you do is your patent search. Now, because of the patent laws, you file. You're going to make a sales sheet based on either a great graphic or you make a video and you capture a few of those. You send it out to everybody. You get some interest. You go through the negotiations, close the deal based on time and performance. Those many pages later, you get all the rest of the details. And that's Stephen Key's book. A few of us in this group have the legal expertise. And when I hear, how can somebody help me with a license agreement? Like Leslie, I had a medical device, so we went out and we did meet. They vetted the product. It took 6 months before we said, okay, here's a memo of understanding. And that's at the point where Leslie came in and helped us with the legalese. Leslie has a 4-page qualification form to see if you're even ready to license your idea. Have you thought about, what is it, like 20-something aspects? There's more to it than, well, you want this? Fine. No, it's. But there's one of the best answers is just that one book. And his website is Invent Right. I don't want to screw this up. Next, who needs who? I got 7 minutes left. I wanted to conclude by 9. Okay. Well, please approach me. We are so networked. My business, after 35 years, I've worked with dozens of service providers in town, so I know who does what they say they're going to do, and that's a big difference. So I can help you filter. And that is building the businesses here in San Diego. I like the whole Ben Franklin idea of juntas, which meant they got together on Fridays and they say, hey, Joe, you're doing a great job. Bob, why'd you screw up that last order? And anyway, people took responsibility. And that's what we're doing here, is I won't refer somebody that I wouldn't use or haven't used. And that way we know we're all helping each other, not hurting each other, okay? Speaking of hurting, anybody else have, by the way, any more who needs who's tonight? Okay. Yes, we live in a great country, and yes, it's given us the opportunity to freedom and the pursuit of happiness, and in the past to prosper from our ideas. And that's what made this country great. It made it much different than where our forefathers came from, because before the Constitution, basically King George owned everything. No matter what your idea was, it's his. You know, you might get a seat at the table if you really wowed him, but no. They owned everything. Our forefathers came here going, that hasn't worked really good. Let's incentivize people and give them a temporary monopoly on their idea, basically. And that was written into the Constitution as Article 1, Section 8. It's the only place in the Constitution the word right is even used. Article 1, Section 8 said you had the right to prosper from your ideas. I'm paraphrasing it. So, what had happened in the last administration was they were passing laws that were being brought up and promoted by what we call now the Gotham Mafia. That's Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. They came up with laws and ideas for laws, and they spent the $30 million in money to get the lobbyists to pay the congressmen to vote on these laws. And the American Invents Act was the prime example of it. American Invents Act in 2011 was enacted, and Darrell Issa stood right here on the stage, and he was promoting this whole catastrophe. And he was starting off with the most gentlest of all the revisions that were being changed. It was called the First to Invent. We used to have the right to keep a notebook to have somebody witness it and say, I invented it, here's my date. No, they changed the law that it's first to file. It's supposedly first inventor to file. $1 goes into computer registers, it's their idea, you lost. Which means now you've got to file your intellectual property before you go out and exhibit it and express it and talk about it, unless you've got trustworthy people or NDAs. This has changed the entire picture for inventors. I have met people that come in my office. I have 35 years clearances. I pride myself in the fact that I'm trustworthy, okay? And I've had some of you that actually clam up. You can't even explain your idea well enough to where I can even write an NDA. That means I need 4 words to explain your idea and you won't admit it. That's how bad this has gotten for some of you because of this one law. Well, Anyway, I, as a group leader, was approached back in 2015 by this gentleman who was a group leader. He had been working in Washington. He came to realize there was a law about to be passed called HR 9. HR 9 was going to make it that if you had an investor in your company of even 5%, that if you infringed on or in any way sued, your investor would have their anonymity pierced, the corporate veils pierced, the investor is exposed, and the investor is on the line for the suit damages. This is unprecedented in American history. Congress had already passed it 379 to 90 something and was waiting for a final vote. Randy called a bunch of people and a dozen of us actually showed up. And it's not here, sorry. Got a couple of these versions of this presentation. We showed up and we had a meeting there in Congress. And we had people that had never heard of this. We were the first inventors ever to talk to any of these congressmen. They'd never heard from anybody but lobbyists until then. We went in there and told them, now wait a minute, and I'm going to tell you what these other aspects are that are even more terrible. This isn't working, this is destroying us, this is hurting us, this is going to take investment away, all these things. They tabled the bill. They had never seen inventors be activists. So spring of 2015, we killed that bill because Randy flew us in. We did form this organization called UIA. Paul Morinville had mid-level software that he had created, and one of the laws that came out was called 101. It's abstract ideas. They have decided that you can't patent an abstract idea. Well, what's an abstract idea? They never defined it. But they basically lumped it up as anything with software is an abstract idea. Now, what does that lead to? Artificial intelligence is pure software. We've lost the entire lead on that in this nation. Medical devices run off of software. We couldn't get an MRI machine patented last year because they called it an abstract idea. We've got so many cases now that America's losing the lead on technology because it's software driven, and our patent office no longer accepts an idea that's software driven because they call it an abstract idea. This poor man was on the line with millions of dollars of license agreements when this law came out, and everybody backed away and he lost everything. And that's why he got in his truck and went to Washington and said, what's going on here? So this man started United U.S. Inventors. I'm very happy to be one of the 3 board members on this. Paul came out here and we were protesting Daryl's meetings. Every time we would publish one, we went to 3 and he stopped publishing them. So we did everything we could here. We then realized, well, we have to do a couple things to get more notice and more attention. Number one, there wasn't a group in the country that was united. They were all bickering about who's got a bigger mailing list. The clubs certainly weren't united. There was no voice, there was no unity. And I realized this had to change very quickly. U.S. Inventor came up with a petition that had the core issues boiled down into basically 5 facts. And what I was able to do, and with Stephen's help, we were able to get some of the biggest groups in the country, Edison Nation, USI, U.S. Inventor, all these major groups, they all backed us on this petition. So that was the story. Stephen got behind it. He's got a great engine for getting things out, and we now have about 3,000 signatures. We need more. You can sign up out here. You can sign up online. Very proud of the fact that that was the start of getting the groups together. We then decided, well, we got to make a little bit more, because who's heard about this? Y'all know about Kardashian's baby, but you don't know if the economy is going to crash this year because we're killing innovation. We're taking away your incentive to even be an inventor because of our own patent system in the U.S. When we can't defend our patents anymore, I'll explain this in a minute, these are liabilities. This is the U.S. Patent Trademark Office right here. We're on the steps and we're burning patents, and we got world news and attention out of it because it's this critical. A lot of these inventors have lost millions of dollars. This is Josh here. Well, excuse me, that's Josh here. This gentleman had 371 of his patents on thin film deposition renounced. Now this means this patent was issued. He went through all of the steps, all of the actions, and actually got these patents issued. He's coming up with processes to create medical coatings and thin film coatings. Somebody challenged him with one of these new patent laws, and he had 371 of his claims patents taken away. Now, a claim, your patents are like deeds to your house. So imagine somebody comes to your house and says, nah, you can't live here anymore, take your deed away from you. You go, well, that's BS. Well, there's no recourse. These patents are being taken away by a group that the patent office has actually created to take away patents. So you're paying to get a patent issued, they're using that money now to create a division that takes your patents away, and they're called PTAB. It's a Patent Trial Advisory Board. This is killing thousands and thousands of patents. Imagine you're getting royalties and dad's in the hospital and and it's all being paid for because, hey, you sold something, you're getting some royalties. A company comes up, challenges you. They only had to put $20,000 in there to start the challenge. You're up to $500,000 just to begin the defense on a PTAB procedure. You roll over. You die. You lose your royalties. Who else dies? Our economy dies. The jobs die. Incentives die. Anyway, we went here. We made the news. We're bringing attention to this matter. And this was pretty drastic, but it got a lot of attention, and nobody got arrested. Believe me, to the very last minute, they were trying to arrest us. They moved us around, they played hopscotch. What you're not seeing here is the other two streets. There must have been 40 to 60 SWAT cars, police cars. They thought it was going to be a riot. I actually walked up to them, why are you guys all here? For us? Yeah, we heard this was a protest. Thanks for coming and help publicize our event. So here's the petition. These are the biggest issues about it. The Patent Trial Appeals Board is totally unjust. It's 3 people. There's no trial. There's no jury. If they decide you don't deserve your patent, it's gone. And there's no recourse. Is that American? No, it's not. Abstract idea. How long are we keep shooting ourselves in the foot here, people? This is intellectual suicide to stop this country from being able to benefit from your great ideas because it has software in it. Well, now, can you imagine who actually came up with this law? Does the name Google and software have any coordination to you? Google wants to make sure you inventors don't have any rights anymore. They want to patent everything that has to do with intellectual property, especially on software. It's not fair. Injunctions and injunctive relief.
If they won't let you.
Pardon me?
Why would they let Google patent it if they won't let you? How are they going to steal your idea?
Well, until exactly a week ago, the head of the U.S. Patent Office was the ex-head of Google's IP.
But doesn't the same trial board apply to Google?
Well, things are changing now because we got rid of Michelle Lee, thank God. But it's still fully enforced and they're putting more money in it. Before Michelle Lee left, she sanctioned $700 million and she didn't report it to the government. She set aside saying, let's make more PTABs, let's build this division up. You're supposed to report any significant funding over $100 million. She didn't. I can go on all the other things Michelle Lee did, but it's we've had years of this damage that we now have to reverse. Injunctions and injunctive relief. That is the biggest killer. What's happening now is if you have a product, if you've been infringed, the only way you can win a lawsuit against your infringer is if you can show you can produce more than they do. Now you're an inventor, you haven't even manufactured yet, and they've got a whole manufacturing plant. You are at the disadvantage of the major corporations now because there's no injunctive relief. You cannot sue for the money that you deserve. There's no damages. Now I'm sorry to disagree with you a little bit here, but here's where China has kicked our butt. China turned around their laws. They're now enforcing this, and this is why companies are going to China now to get their patents and things made because they have a better system. Our country, when Daryl Issa was up here and he's saying, we've got to change our system so we can be like the rest of the world, I sat right there, stood up and going, Daryl, why are we dumbing down our system? Well, when I said that, our system was still #1 in the world. You know where we are today? 10th. We're behind Eastern Bloc countries. We've totally lost it on intellectual property, protecting intellectual property. All right, so a few other things. There's actually 14 things on the bill I'm going to talk to you about in a minute that are really key issues that are really hurting us all. Accelerated examination just means that you could pay more money now to get your patent faster. Well, who takes advantage of that? The companies with the money.
Yeah, fast track.
Fast track. So can you afford an extra $5,000, $6,000 to get fast track? Most small inventors can't. Companies. Yeah. So these are the issues that were on the petition. I hope you join on our website, sign it. There's a sign-up sheet out there. This was authored by U.S. Inventors. Again, I'm very proud to be part of this group and pursuing this. PTABs is the biggest issue. Our biggest argument is about PTABs. There are a couple of laws in motion right now. There's 3 bills. One is called the Stronger patent bill, but it keeps PTABs. And the problem with PTABs is judicial, and a president can change the regulations on it. So every administration, we might still be having to go back through the whole process of explaining why PTABs are bad. We want them eliminated, period. They never got us anywhere. They're not doing any good. There was never a bad patent in the first place. And frankly, if somebody infringes or says something, you know, you could always go through the process normally of fighting a patent. But the way they've changed the laws against us, it's crazy. Again, it comes back to you had this right in the Constitution as it was originally written here. Realize this is what the founding fathers thought was the way to make the country great, and in fact did. But we're not there anymore. We don't have these rights, and they're falling apart. What's the SCOTUS issue? SCOTUS on November 27th listened to a case called Oil States. Oil States is a case where another company called Green Energy, Oil States makes fracking equipment, and another company called Green Energy infringed on them, copied them, knocked them off. Oil States tried to sue. Green Energy used these new patent rules saying, no, you shouldn't even own this patent. That's how these PTABs, they get involved. They say, you shouldn't even own this patent because it's either obvious or there's some other work in this area that you missed originally. It was a bad patent. It shouldn't have been issued. Anyway, they took it all the way to the Supreme Court to the point where they're saying this patent should not be a property right. It should be a public right. Now again, imagine you own a house and somebody comes and goes, hey, give me your deed back, thanks, we're going to turn this into a public park. Whoa, wait a minute. You know what private property means is that I get to decide what happens to this. I can sell it, I can license it, I can sit on it, I can manufacture it, whatever. My right, my property right. And what is at stake right now is the whole concept that patents are property rights. And if the Supreme Court decides differently, there is absolutely no incentive to invent because you don't own your ideas anymore. We're right back to where we were, where King George ran everything. You got it? It's that serious. Right now it's a split decision because politically the judges are biased. Anyway, we went, we made signs, made noise, tried to get as much news out there as possible. Very difficult getting the news, again, because it's an issue that only 0.001% of the population knows or cares about. But it affects everybody, and it affects our next generations, and the generations after that. So, I try to be as active as possible in getting out to Washington. Randy's still a great champion, so is Paul. We have been bringing more people that are actually making the commitment. The one thing that really bugs me is this whole idea that abstract ideas are not patentable. Amicus briefs are where the industry writes letters to the judges that are deciding these factors. I'm very happy to have been a named inventor that I'm fighting a case that's about whether or not the 101 rules should stand, the abstract idea. We have gone the next step now, and we've actually created a bill that we are now promoting through Congress. We have now over 200 Congress members that have come aboard, are willing to support us. It's an amazing turnaround, but it's only happened because a few of us actually showed up in Washington and talked to these people really face to face. This is the bill. Again, it measures these issues, and we want to restore adjunctive relief, eliminate the PTABs, get rid of the abstract idea, venue. A lot of these things are even more complicated. Some of them are so complicated, it takes a law degree to figure it out. We've tried to distill it down to just this, and then when you go on our website, there is a full couple-page explanation about each one of these and why it matters and why we're trying to fight it. So what's happening now is more of us are joining. I was back in D.C. Recently with 10 of us, and we all went to different congressmen's office and explained to them we're inventors, and number one, we're golden boys because they've never seen inventors before. We've never been activists before. We're pacifists. Most of us are not that outwardly. Anyway, it's just they've never seen inventors before react like this, and so the whole picture has so dramatically changed in the last year. We're just so blessed to realize there are people that still care about this system, and some of them still can do something about it. So we were there recently talking to congressmen. A gentleman from Texas filmed us because he wants to make a bigger issue about it. The last meeting I went in, I don't know if this really made the effect or not, but last meeting I walked into Daryl Ice's office, and Paul and I and this other lady who was with us, and we want to talk to Daryl Ice. He won't talk to you. Okay, well we're talking to Stafford. We want to tell him about the patent laws, how it's affecting us, how bad it is for the economy, what our views on this and that. And all right, thanks. Here's our card. So I didn't get any response there. It was that night that he announced he wasn't going to run again for Congress. So hopefully we were the final straw, but. You know, he might raise his head and come back on the 51st, I heard. Anyway. So it's about being active. Now, why does that matter? Because this is how your government runs right now. These are the proverbial halls of Congress, and what's missing?
People.
Exactly. The only people that they're hearing from in Congress are the lobbyists, the people paid to go there and give the corporation's opinion. Every one of these flags is a congressman's office. The floors are shiny, but there's nobody participating anymore. The apathy level's up to here. Everybody thinks somebody else is going to take care of it. And all your rights are going to be gone before you realize it. What is it said about evil? It's not the people that are going to cause harm, it's the people that don't stop them.
I'll be there. I'll be there in
Thank you.
a month.
No, I'm going to be there in April. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But thank you. Michelle is such a patriot. And her work is for another group with parallel mission. It's a Coalition for Process America that's been working on the trade agreement issues. And that has to do with manufacturing in a way we've got the worst trade agreements ever now because corporations had their way. And anyway. So this is a big issue. Get involved and maybe we won't fall into these problems in the future. There is still time to change these issues. We need to do it because, this is why we're here. We expect something to come out of the labors of our mind, and you still can, but it's getting harder, and we really have to fight. This year is really the most critical year in America's history for inventors. Absolutely. So, thank you very much for caring. Please do care more and sign petitions and help and join our efforts, okay? Thank you. So, I want to thank you, and come back next month, and we'll have another great meeting. And until then, stay inventive. Oh, thank you for our other companies that help us. Tom Michelle.